is not because it's a stereotype, but because it's hateful. Like, that's the issue. And so I think Lex missed the mark when he was saying to Kanye, you know, everybody's just an individual, just treat it like that. It's that in general, no, there's plenty of situations in which you can. I mean, for example, Malice rails against the corporate press. And whether you like that term or not, I don't think it would work to say, no, let's treat each member of the journalism profession as an individual, and, you know, let's not lump them together. You know what I mean? Like, that's, or people talking about neocons or something. Like, yeah, sometimes if you unfairly label someone, or it's just you use it just as a pejorative and you don't analyze their arguments, that's a problem. But the mere act of coming up with a category into which to put people, I don't think per se that's a bad, you know, oh yeah, these free bankers. They're always talking about fractional reserve banking being allowed. And I don't like, you know, are we allowed to call people free bankers? Right. So we use categories and distill down the various viewpoints of people. You know, there's different artists, and oh, these people were part of this movement, and these people were part of this movement, and so on. And we're going to just say you're not allowed to tell? Yeah, each individual artist had his or her own nuances, but it makes sense to have different periods in art history and different movements, and to say, oh, these people belong to this school and these people belong to this school. I'm an Austrian economist, even though on some matters, you know, I'm more favorable to game theory than I'm guessing Hans Hoppe is. It still makes sense to say there's such a thing as the Austrian school. Okay, let me also address head on, I've noticed besides this tension, this animosity between, let me mention another thing too. So I've seen examples with my own eyes of, like I say, some punk kids on the subways being very rude and harassing the Hasidic Jews who are riding the subway. But Kanye on Twitter has been showing stuff of, and there was one tweet that was hilarious where he's like, now when I had this, you know, the red hat period where I was misdiagnosed with exhaustion, and I'm not supposed to say who the race of the doctor was or the media, but it was a Jewish doctor, right? And it just went viral because it's just like his delivery was funny the way he said it. But assuming the things he texted out were accurate, is this celebrity trainer guy or, you know, doctor said some pretty bad things to him, like, you know, in allegedly private conversations over text, saying like, hey, there's two ways we can do this. The first way is I try to help you, you don't cuss me out, and we do it that way. The second way is I have you institutionalized and they're going to drug you up, and, you know, good luck with play dates that way. And so Kanye was saying, look at how they're talking to me. They're trying to keep me down, control what I say, threatening to drug me, and using my kids as bargaining chips, right? And so, and he was, you know, talking with Lex about how all these people in the music industry, the record label executives, you know, giving him terrible contracts that only later do you realize just how bad they were and things like that. And hey, they all happen to be. So, you know, he's got his experiences too. And so you can see the animosities there. And so let me say, you know, besides those patterns that I've just noticed, Hotep Jesus also alludes to that stuff. He's a little bit more coy about it than Kanye is, so he doesn't get as much trouble. He's not as big a target. You know, elephant in the room, I get lots of emails and things over the year, or I have gotten lots of emails over the years and things from white Christians Protestants, who, you know, they're not fans of the Jewish people. So again, rather than just like, oh, that's not nice, don't you know what happened in Nazi Germany with that kind of attitude? Let's just take it head on and say, what are you talking about? If you're a Christian, how in the world can you not like Jewish people? It doesn't make any sense. They're literally God's chosen people, according to you, according to the Bible. Jesus was Jewish. When God decided to become a man, he came as a Jew. Mary and Joseph, his parents, were devout Jews. His disciples, you know, his inner circle that he picked, they were all from that tradition. That's where they were waiting for the Messiah. It wouldn't have made sense for Gentiles to be, you know, they wouldn't even had a framework to understand who he was. Moses, Jewish. King David, Jewish, let alone Mises and Rothbard, right? So it doesn't make any sense. Now, if you say, oh, well, you know what? But they killed him. it was the Jews who killed Jesus. And so that's, as a Christian, like that's the standard line, right? Like if you asked a Christian, how can you as a Christian have any malice in your heart for the Jewish people? They could say, oh, because they killed Jesus. And well, no, guess what? They actually didn't. It was the Romans who physically did it. And if you want to say, oh, well, I don't mean like who literally put nails into him. I mean like who was responsible for it. Okay, you were and I was. Our sin is what nailed him to the cross, according to your own doctrines. If you want to like step back and look at the big picture. So again, you don't have to just say, oh, I don't want to use stereotypes and plus I'll get in trouble with the HR department at my job. No, you can take these things on face value. It's of all people who really, it makes no sense to be harboring anti-Semitism. It would be professed Christians. That makes no sense whatsoever. Your king is a Jew. He is the king of the Jews and everybody else. So in conclusion, folks, love everybody. Hatred is wrong. Hateful stereotypes are wrong because they're hateful, not because they're stereotypes. And with that, I will see you next time.
You've just experienced another episode of The Bob Murphy Show, the podcast promoting free markets, free minds, and grateful souls. For more information and to subscribe to this podcast, visit bobmurphyshow.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
From Feature Story News, I'm Simon Marks with the week in review. And the week ended with Ukraine celebrating the fall of the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, recaptured by Kiev's forces after the Russians withdrew. It's being seen as a possible turning point in the war and occurred after the Russians said they were no longer able to reinforce supply lines. With the reaction from the Kremlin, FSN's Giles Gibson covering events in Russia for us from neighbouring Estonia, outside the reach of Moscow's reporting restrictions.
The Ministry of Defence in Moscow is simply saying that this is a tactical move, that this is not an all-out withdrawal from Russian forces in the face of Ukrainian military.
President Biden ended the week at the COP27 climate change summit in Egypt, but had Ukraine on his mind.
Against this backdrop, it's more urgent than ever that we double down on our climate commitments. Russia's war only enhances the urgency of the need to transition the world off its dependence on fossil fuels.
He apologized for the US withdrawal from the Paris climate change accords, saying Washington is now committed to meeting its emission reduction targets by the year 2030. The president had a better week than expected in Washington after midterm elections did not unleash the promised Republican wave of national support. Former President Donald Trump says he's still going ahead with a planned announcement of his next presidential bid, a speech at Mar-a-Lago this coming Tuesday. But the biggest Republican winner in the midterms may have been Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
He is widely expected to launch a presidential run of his own. Britain was rocked this week by the arrest of several journalists detained by police in the county of Hertfordshire as they were simply reporting a protest by anti-oil industry demonstrators. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak intervened to say that reporters must be free to do their jobs, but the chief constable in Hertfordshire accused the news industry of giving the protesters too much publicity. Two major business failures made headlines in the US. Twitter is melting down after Elon Musk warned of the company's possible bankruptcy days after he finalized a $44 billion takeover of the company. It has seen huge trust issues develop on the social media platform. And cryptocurrency exchange FTX sought bankruptcy protection in one of the most stunning
of their tips at Ruby Tuesdays. And more than half have said that their boyfriends Dennis like them tan. And he's the father of their second child, so they want him to stick around.
This is the Onion News Network.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm. The latest edition of Free State Live is next on the Liberty Radio Network at lrn.fm. Get more at shows.lrn.fm.
Folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Hey everybody, we know you like listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about making your own? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, they're creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor is going to distribute your podcast for you once you upload it, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and all your favorite podcatchers. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So if you want to get started and get started podcasting today, go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And remember, it's free. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians, anarchists, movers, natives, and those on your way, thanks for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 8 of Free State Live, where you get to hear about all the ways you can live free and thrive in the free state of New Hampshire. And first and foremost, time to welcome back our lovable gang, that cast of characters you've known to grow in love. We've got Kevin from the internet, our meme smith galore, and I guess our new fan of Cameo recipient. I mean, you got some trolls going on for you now?
Absolutely, and it has been entertaining my evening.
Yeah, well, the trolling will continue until Liberty improves, and if that's a viable path forward, I'm all in behind it. And speaking of trolls, we have New Hampshire's favorite propagandist, Tall Bill. How are you, Bill?
Happy Free State New Year, guys.
Yes, it is Free State New Year's. You know, it's my favorite holiday because it's the day we get to celebrate everything coming to an end. We actually had Dennis kind of preempting us in the chat over there. I'm exhausted with all this election business. It's so hard, lots of emotions. But Dennis, One more day. In fact, only about 23 and a half hours till the polls close tomorrow night. And then we get to call it a wrap and celebrate the victories, mourn the losses, move forward to the next priorities, working on liberty activism that makes a difference with our legislative allies who are getting in there. And talk about Free State New Year's, what we can expect, what we're doing, what we're moving forward, what we have to look forward to next year, and maybe our expectations coming out of this. We have New Hampshire native, activist, and veteran, Derek Prue. Derek, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you?
Doing great. How's everyone doing?
As good as it can be. As I think Dennis did hit the nail on the head. It's been a lot of burnout this year coming in. But before we dive into talking about the election, as always, guys, we have to remember that the Free State Project is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit that does not specifically endorse or support any political party, any political candidate, or any political initiatives. Any information presented in this episode is for educational purposes. And while the views of your hosts and our guests may reflect community sentiment, they don't reflect implicitly the views of the organization. Again, as a nonprofit, we stay out of these things, but as members of the community, we might have some opinions or two. Derek, you've been all over the place. You've been helping Republicans, helping Libertarians, campaigning across the state, pushing for bipartisan legislation coming up this year, lobbying co-sponsors. Like, you're doing all the work that everyone forgets is like goes into getting legislation passed, but before the people you need to do it have even been elected. Like, why?
Be careful when you use the word pushing, dude. It's a hot topic in New Hampshire right now. So.
Yeah. What gets you like so motivated to do this stuff? And the bills you're working on aside, just like getting involved to the level you've gotten involved, like what pushes you to do that?
I think it's like, a lot of times I think I don't really have a right to complain about anything unless I'm willing to put in the work to solve it. Of course, if you can't solve it at a certain point, then I guess you can still complain about it. But for the most part, it's like, all right, we got a job to do. I don't think, the country's going in the right direction. Government's going in the right direction. So I'm going to put in the work to fix it myself. And that kind of is what gives me the motivation to go out there and to talk to Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians and try to get everyone to work together to maybe do things that I think would work better. I don't know.
And why not run for office yourself? Why not take that step instead? You've just been helping other people run for office and doing a lot of behind the work scenes. Like, what made you want to choose that path instead of going out there and getting yourself elected?
I'm pretty young. I'm pretty new to everything. I was part of the Trump campaign in 2016 and in 2020, although I ended up voting for Jorgensen in 2020, and then got involved with the whole Free State movement in 2021, January 2021. So I'm just getting started, trying to get my feet steady, figure out everything, how the whole process works, make some connections. Obviously, I've found my family with the whole Free State movement. There's not a more inspiring group of people than Free Staters, and I love every single one of them, no matter how much we bicker and argue about strategy. But yeah, I do plan on running for state rep in 2024, so that is on the table. But yeah, I'm learning and I'm networking, and yeah, I'm motivated. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, well, I'd vote.
You got some support, Derek.
Hell yeah,
you got some support, some organic grassroots support there. I'm seeing.
So I guess another question here is like, oddly enough, I think I'm the only non-native on the show right now. Shout out there.
Oh wow, that is interesting.
Yeah,
that's pretty rare.
And again, I'm not somebody who moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project. Again, somebody who moved here for unrelated related reasons, not from the Free State Project, more political reasons, and ended up finding Free Staters to be great neighbors and finding a community in them. It's weird that we end up having a show of entirely nobody who moved for the Free State Project promoting the Free State Project. But like, what was your path here? You said you worked for Trump. You got politically involved at a young age. You're a veteran. You're in the New Hampshire National Guard. No more because of some issues and the past dystopia we've had, as I understand. But like, what was your path to like liberty? Like, how did you find this community and like find your place in it? Normally I ask somebody what made you move, but instead, like, what made you stay?
Yeah, I mean, like I grew up in a pretty conservative household. Everyone in New Hampshire grows up like having "live free or die" like drilled into their brain. It's everywhere on all the license plates and the highway signs and everything like that. So, you always had that in the back of your head. And then I'm also like a history buff too. So I like reading some old theory of like liberty, like John Locke and stuff like that. And so like I already kind of had a basis of being open to liberty. Joined the New Hampshire Army National Guard, trying to serve my country, fight the bad guys and do my duty for my country, patriotism and that kind of thing. And then, through 2020 with, all the COVID mandate stuff, I started like really questioning like party loyalty and stuff like that. Cause even a lot of like the Republicans were pushing a lot of the COVID lockdowns. And of course, Operation Warp Speed was a product of the Trump administration. And so that kind of got the gears turning at things might not be how they seem. And then when we were on a training mission, I was sitting in my my HIMARS. I was part of a HIMARS unit, and we were waiting for a fire mission to come down. I'm just scrolling through my phone, and I see a news article about Airman Daniel Hale, who was arrested for leaking that 90% of drone strikes in the Middle East were on innocent civilians. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And so that made me start digging deep into the wars themselves. Were they justified? What were the things that we were doing over there, the lies that were told that brought us into the wars? And then, of course, just everything getting worse through 2020 with the lockdowns. And I got to the point where I was like, I need to find like a new political home or something like that. And I just like started searching, and that brought me to the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, which then brought me into the Free State Movement. And once I got plugged into the Free State Movement, like I said, I found my family.
Yeah, I had a oddly similar, path, I guess, because I grew up here too. I had really not much idea about this, and then the Mises Caucus has done a really good job with the outreach. I don't know where they're getting all their leads. I mean, I guess I joined a Facebook group. So like that's probably worth it if you're out there and you're wondering where all the Liberty people are. Look up, like it's probably easier during vaccine mandates or something or lockdowns. Look up like anti-lockdown or like this is crazy, and then you'll find people who are saying that this is crazy. But that's that really was the exact same route that I found here. And it's interesting, right? Because the Free State Project seems like the most potent form of all of this. It's like there's the Libertarian Party, or there's the Mises Caucus, which is maybe like a little bit more, I guess, they're going to be more direct than the Libertarian Party previously was or whatever. But all of that is ultimately like, what are you going to try to convince a nation of people to change their minds on how they should live their lives or how like their whole system of government should work? It's like most people aren't going to be convinced. So the idea that you could just get people to gather together if they share those beliefs, it's just like such a simpler, it's an easier sell than